Welcome viewers to another edition of ASI Kitchen, and today's edition is Skip to My Lou Mental Monday, where we will be focusing on the book The Power of Hope, in which we would have done a stress test self-analysis. I trust that you would have done that stress test. You would have done an analysis of your stress. And today is the opportunity for us to do an analysis of your stress level. I'm so glad that you have decided to join with us this evening. And so we want to get into the program right away. And so I invite you to bow your head, close your eyes with me as we invite God's presence. Mighty God, what an awesome God you are. The God who has kept us safely through all the challenges that we have experienced over the last 2 years. Indeed, O Lord, it was a stressful time, but you have brought us through, our families, our friends, and our loved ones. And we want to glorify you through this evening's program. And so be with us, mighty God. Bless us, open our minds, grant unto us understanding, lead that thy name will be glorified. This is our prayer in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. 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 Well, viewers, friends, I just want to let you know that we have a packed program in store for you. And our program begins with none other than my lovely wife, Sister Vernry Simon Frederick. She is an educator. Yes, she is the director of the Tobago campus of the University of the Southern Caribbean. And so with no further ado, I hand you over to her for our book club segment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another book club segment. Today, you see I have some lovely books in front of me. Healthy and Strong, Juices, Smoothie and Drinks, and 101 Secrets to a Healthy Life. Indeed, as we promote having optimum health, these 3 books are going to be essential. But today I'm not going to be doing much promotion about these books. Today I'm actually going to be talking about the act of reading. Do you know that you are what you read? Yes. And a rare custom here, you are what you eat. And of course, that points to ensuring that you put all the correct nutrients in so that your body could function. But just as how we need to be mindful of what we eat, we need to be mindful of what we read. This statement was made by Dr. Ellie Henry. He's the president of the IAD, so he knows what he's talking about. In fact, he says to us in an article that was prepared for elders, but of course everyone could benefit from it, that spiritually and intellectually speaking, you are what you read. In other words, reading is to the mind and to the spiritual life of the Christian what food is to the body. And of course, there are some specific reasons why for a Christian, reading is important. If you want to have a strong, healthy Christian life, then you need to read. Why? Number 1, the Bible. God's personal love letter to us. It's in the form of a book. And so if you need to hear what God is saying to you, if you need to understand His will for your life, yes, you need to seek His face through prayer, but you also need to read the Bible. And so it's very important that you read. And of course, if you're going to read the Bible, then it means you also have to read the writings that are going to help you understand the Bible better. And so we have the whole host of books written by Sister White, that those are going to assist you as well as you seek to strengthen your Christian life. Secondly, Paul gave us this counsel. And he himself led by example in terms of reading. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 13, close to the end of his life, when death loomed over him, what did he ask Timothy to bring him? He said, bring me my cloak and my books, the parchments. So imagine this, on his deathbed, what Paul wanted most was books. He wanted to read because he understood that even on the way to death, reading was important. Secondly, reading aids us in strengthening our spiritual gifts. We have all been given spiritual gifts by God. And how is the best way? What is the best way for us to strengthen ourselves, to edify ourselves, to fortify ourselves? We need to read. Read good books so that indeed we can maximize the gifts that God has given to us, to share His gospel to the world and to be of benefit to those around us. Finally, reading helps, or reading allows for character transformation. It is impossible for you to read the Bible and be the same. It is impossible for you to have an encounter with one of Sister White's book and be the same. Reading helps to transform your character, transform your life. And so it is critical. If you want to be a good Christian, you want to be an effective soul winner, reading is something that you must do. But beyond that, it's good that we read. But not only the fact that we are reading, but what do you read? Of course, we can think of Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Might I add, read these things, so that indeed what you put into your brain will be good stuff. So of course, when you open your mouth, you'll be able to speak good stuff. So because of course, if you are what you read, then of course when you open your mouth to speak, it's only what's on the inside is going to come out. And we want good stuff to come out, so we have to put good stuff in. Beyond that, it is not only critical that we know what to read, but we also know how to read. Do you know that in this age of 2022, in the 21st century, when there are so many digital books around, that our brain still prefers paper? Yes, it is true. Research has proven it. In fact, there's an entire article that says the brain prefers paper. So while it is good to be digital, I mean, we are in the digital age now and we have lots of ebooks. And for those of you who don't know what an ebook is a regular book put in an electronic form. So in this way, you can read it from your tablet, from your computer, from your phone. You can read it from a screen, even from your Kindle. Some of us have Kindles. And so while reading is good, reading paper versus screen. I wonder which is better. Sometimes we are forced to think the screen is better because we're living in the 21st century. But guess what? The research has shown reading from the paper is better. In fact, the format in which we read matters, because reading different media means reading differently. Yes, our brain processes differently when we read from paper as opposed to when we read from a screen. There are two totally different experiences. Let me give you a classic example. When you read a book, you can hold the book. You can turn the pages. There's something in the sound of the turning of the pages. It's an emotional connection that you make with the book. Yes. And there's something going on in your brain while that is happening. Have you ever noticed that those high-end electronic books, they try to replicate that? So they give you a page-turning sound, you know, just to try to, because they understand the importance of it. But guess what? From an education perspective, it's better to read the book, because when we read, firstly, we understand better. There's actually a study done in 2012 in Norway with two groups of secondary school students. They were given something to read. One group was given paper, one group was given the information on a screen. At the end of it, it's important to note that the students who read the text scored significantly better in reading comprehension than those who read the digital text. So reading, number one, reading helps you to understand better. Number two, again from an education perspective, when we read on paper, we retain more information and in a logical order. Again, another study was done in Norway. And again, they were given two groups of persons. They were given material in e-book material versus the real book material. What they found was that although the persons who read the e-book were able to recall the information, the persons who read the actual book were able to give you the information in the order in which it happened. So they understood it, not only understood it better, but they were able to give it in a logical, and they were able to give you more details than the persons who simply read the ebook. So in other words, if you want to do in-depth reading, then my advice to you, choose a book, a real book. That's why we still have textbooks, hardcover textbooks, yes. Thirdly, when we read from paper, we are more focused. Why is that? When I'm reading from a book, I just have the book in front of me. If I'm reading from a screen, if I'm reading from my phone, I have lots of distractions coming in. Sometimes a WhatsApp message comes in, a text message comes in, somebody tries to call me while I'm reading from my phone. So we have all these distractions there. And the screen, of course, the screen is moving quickly. And so your brain naturally moves like that because you're looking at the screen, as opposed to when I have the book in front of me, I'm able to focus. In fact, it's impossible to focus 100% on the screen when reading from the screen. When we turn our reading habit into one that is 100% digital, what we do is that we gradually lose the abilities to process understanding in data retention, concentration, and internalization of ideas in a logical order. Wow. So you understand what's happening there? By reading digital books, we're actually kind of breaking down our brain bit by bit. Now that is scary information to me. I spoke about the touch about it. It's easier to navigate when you have a book. I could easily find page 3 here. On an ebook, I'll have to go through swiping, and so on. So it's easier when you have the experience with the book. We only see in a digital book right in front of us. In a real book, I can see the entire page. I can scan. I can move about. So you have it easy to navigate your way through. I can take notes. Notice I have my pen. I'm one of those persons who like to mark up on the book when you're reading. So when you have a book, I can mark up on my screen. Yes, I could make notes, but it's a bit more cumbersome to do so. So I can mark up and so on. Do you know Bill Gates? We know who Bill Gates is, that Microsoft tycoon. He actually prefers reading books. He himself says that when he reads, he takes notes. And he makes sure he captures his new knowledge. And he does it by reading books. Because guess what? He himself admits he can't mark up on the screen. So even the person who is creating the software prefers to use books. That should tell you something. Reading is a thinking activity. When we read from books, we help ourselves to go through the thinking processes logically, sequentially. That's what we do. Finally, for those of you with young children, because I know lots of children are there now, and of course we have our tablets and so on. Do you know that reading is the best way to increase your child's vocabulary? The more they read, the greater their vocabulary is going to be. Their creative writing skills are going to grow. But children who spend a lot of screen time find it difficult to concentrate. Because guess what? The screen is moving, and so their brain is moving just that way. So you need them to focus, give them a book. When we read with our children, it also helps to create that bond. There's nothing that feels better to me than sitting with my daughter at the night reading to her. That closest that we have from reading those books, turning those pages together. And of course, prolonged time in front of the screen damages our eyes. There's no side effect to reading paper. So that's also important for us to note. Reading from screens also affects our ability to sleep, because it wears away at the melatonin. That's the hormone that allows us to relax and sleep and so on. And so you need to take all these things into consideration. Now, reading, I said before, reading is like food to the Christian. But really and truly, the process of reading is like exercise. I know Pastor spoke about exercising on the program before. So we want to exercise so your body is going to be healthy. You need to read so your brain is going to be healthy. And so I want you to read, but not only read, but choose the best content, the best media, and of course, that's the way you'll get the best results. Thank you so much. See you next time for our book club section here on ASI Kitchen.
Come and be a part of our family. Join us every Friday at 6:30 p.m. for family worship. Let us welcome in the Sabbath together as one. Each week we feature a new family. You don't want to miss it. So join us at 6:30 p.m. every Friday on ASI Media Tobago on YouTube or Facebook. See you there.
We thank our educator. She was very proficient for sharing such wonderful information with us, letting us know the importance of reading and the importance of reading using hard copy books as against reading digitally or electronically. And so I want to believe that the IADPA bookstores will be filled with individuals interested in getting some of those much needed hard copy books that will help us to stay healthy and to stay happy indeed. So I want to thank her again, Sister Frederick, for sharing that wonderful information with us. And so we get into our activity for today. Yes, it is ASI Kitchen, and yes, today is Tuesday, but today we will be looking at the Skip to My Lou Mental Monday activity. Some of you would have participated in it, and so you may want to find that form on your phone so that you can look at it right now as we go through it, because guess what? I have some very, very proficient individuals, yes, lots of proficient individuals here today who will be able to take us through that survey that you did, that self-test concerning stress that you did. And so I want to introduce the panelists that I have with me today. I have two individuals with me, and I'm so glad, I'm so pleased to have them. First up is Sister Alicia Roberts Patterson. I do hope that I have gotten her name correct.
Yes, you have.
All
Good afternoon,
right.
everyone.
So tell us a little about yourself, Sister Patterson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am, yes, Alicia Roberts Patterson. I am a mental health officer attached to the Scarborough General Hospital, and I've been working for 20 years, over 20 years in the field. I actually attend the Mount Grace SDA Church, and I am excited to be here.
All right, and I am excited that you are here as well. I'm also excited that, you know, there is a male on the panel. Hallelujah.
Yes,
oftentimes we have
male.
Females, lots of females, you know, giving expert advice. And
Yes,
so we have
yes.
a male with us today, a young man. He has a little gray in his
Just
beard.
a little bit,
Yeah, just like
Yeah,
I
just
do.
a little bit.
All right, so that means that we're aging well then,
Yes.
by the grace of God. His
Yes,
name
yes,
is
yes.
Marlon Abraham. So
Yes,
Marlon,
yes.
tell us a little about yourself.
Well, Pastor, as you said, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marlon Abraham. I am also a mental health officer attached to the Tobago Regional Health Authority. I've been in this field for over 15 years. That's roughly about 7 to 8 years less than my colleague, however. She's still an inspiration to me.
Lovely.
And a mentor. I attend the Scarborough SD Church, and it's my pleasure to be here with you all this evening to go through this stress test and to give as much, insight as to what you would have answered in your questionnaire. All right, so thank you, Pastor. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so that's good. That's important that, the panelists are pleased to be here because, they must first experience the pleasure before they experience the pain. We're talking about stress today. Lord have mercy. So we're going to go right into it. Well, before we get into the questions, Sister Frederick shared some good information concerning reading and reading books as against reading electronically and digitally. Do you think that, reading digitally has added to the stress of the age that we are in? Do you think our young individuals, going through school, do you think that it has affected them along the lines of stress, all the reading that they've had to do electronically? Well, what's your thoughts there?
Pastor, it's very technical, and it can go both ways, right? We would have came out of an era where we was not privy to have those gadgets, so we had no choice, right? So you either do or die, as some may say. So with the option that the individuals have now, they have more choices, right? For some, it can be stressful, while others might not perceive it to be as that stressful. But see, for me, I would have paid particular attention to the distraction that comes about with these gadgets. So if I'm in front of my computer and I'm reading, something might pop up, and I might just take a 5 minutes to, give my attention to that, and when I really check myself, it's a whole hour. I get less reading done, so that's more stressful for me because I was not able to complete the task that I was set out to do. But when you have the book in front of you, you're more focused. It's less stressful, no distraction. So for some individuals, that will be best for them, while others, if they have the discipline to not be distracted like I am, then for them that will be less stressful. But I prefer the book as well.
All right, glad to hear that. IADPA is getting excited hearing that individuals prefer books still, even in this digital age. Do you have any quick comment there?
Yes.
Sister Roberts?
Yes, I do. In terms of reading, again, reading engages the mind and it actually fosters imagination. So reading is vital and important. The medium in which you use to read, I think also has its effect. So yes, Marlon, I know we have to change with the time, right? Because again, for us, getting a computer, we had to probably go to the library to figure out a computer, or to get access to a computer during our time. So we had to read our books if we had to get the information or to know the information. But there are some negatives when it comes to devices in terms of the effect these gadgets have on eyesight.
Yes.
All right. So one of the problems that I experience is that with my children now they have complaints about their eyes. So I still encourage them. I have books, tons of books that I ask them to read. I mean, it's difficult with the boys, but with my daughter, it's easier for her to pick up a book and read. She uses that. It's not a problem where that is concerned. But with my boys, they prefer to do the work on the device. All right, and I think I'm not sure if it's a gender thing, but there is some serious challenges where that is concerned. But again, I prefer them picking up a book. There is a discipline that it teaches. There is a sense of focus that it fosters as well. and reduces the distraction, as you said.
Quite.
But paper is definitely
Paper
better.
is better or best? Well, we only have two, so we would have to use yes, better. Yes, paper is better. And I'm so excited about this because what I'm hearing is that, parents are stressed when children do not read. We want our children to read. And so we agitate and we invite them to read. And then when they begin to read and they are reading digitally or electronically, then another stress may come up, the stress of having to provide for them glasses. I can hear the teachers are saying, I am stressed when the children are not reading. But when it is that they're reading through the electronic means and they become distracted, then another type of stress. So we're talking about stress today. And guess what? We have an expert as well, another expert with us. His name is Julian Melgoza. Yes, and he is the expert that has written this book, The Power of Hope, and I love this book. Brothers and sisters, yes, friends, viewers, I just want to let you know that I do indeed love this book. And so we will be going through the stress self-test that he had placed within this book. And just to give you a little idea of what is inside of this book, by the way, this was the missionary book of the year for 2018. So many of you probably have it. It may be in your bookshelf, so you may have to go and look for it, dust it off. You would have given it to your friends, your family members, so you can check on them to ask them, how it was when they read, what was the information they gained. Julian Melgoza said some of the the contents that we have here is health, it's all in your head. And I know that my friends here will talk a little more about that. He also said that anxiety is excess future, depression is excess past, and today we are dealing with stress, which is excess present. So buckle your seatbelts. Yes, your phones, your devices. Yes, we didn't get to print them, so you have to look at it on your phones. Yes, but it's only just a little bit. Not much reading is going to be done. And so you open your phones, you're looking at your questions, you've gotten your score already. Let's hear what our mental health officers have to say concerning such. So, are you guys ready?
Yes, quite.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I noted that we sort of identified the questions into, is it 4 or is it 5 segments we have?
I think we had 5.
5 segments. So the first segment was, I'm engaging you all at this point in time just to be just a little interactive as well. So we had this segment that looked at Newstart, identified as Newstart.
Yes.
We had one identified as personal care. The other one was
physical environment.
Then we had
Social.
Environment.
And the last one is
Self-awareness.
all right, so let's begin to look at some of the questions on the Newstart. You know that is one of my favorite topics: nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trusting God. It never gets stale repeating it, my friends.
Never.
And so we have in this segment 6 questions. Yes, under this segment, I'm going to identify 3 of those questions, and I'm going to allow my panelists now to determine whichever one of those questions, you would just like to comment on. So we have, do you eat fruit and vegetables in abundance? That is important. Do you exercise regularly? Are you skipping to my loo? Big question. And then there is this one. Do you sleep well? So there are 3 other questions there. And so panelists, which one of you would like to go first, giving an analysis of the responses and an analysis of the question itself?
Okay. I'll do the vegetables, fruit and vegetables, in terms of nutrition.
Okay.
Out of the responses, we had 20 persons out of 64 saying that no, they do not eat fruit and vegetables in abundance. So that's 30% of the respondents from the questionnaire. So those who participated. So what we're seeing here is 31% of our population, or the respondents, admits that nutrition is probably not the best, or it's lacking in some way or the other. But we know how important nutrition is.
Yes.
The body will not function efficiently or effectively if we eat poorly, or if we don't eat a balanced diet, or if we don't drink enough water, if we don't have enough vitamins and minerals for the body to function. And if your body is not functioning well, then your mind in itself will not function well. And in terms of stress, if your body is unable to help self, then how would it now deal with the stress in our environment? Because again, stress in itself can be good and bad. So we have good stress and we have bad stress. Good stress we call eustress, right? So, you know, preparing for your wedding, or maybe studying for an exam, sometimes it can be considered good stress.
Eustress.
Eustress, yes.
Right.
The bad stress is what we refer to as distress. Yes. And that is the one where the problem comes in, when we actually cannot function or cope with distress, right? The body now is unable to cope and manage that part of it.
Which stresses in our environment.
That's
and
right.
our environment is filled with stressors.
Yes. We cannot get away from the stressors. Once you're alive, you will experience stressors.
Yes.
But then it's how do we cope as individuals, how do we deal with those stressors is what is important. But nutrition is vital in terms of that. Your body will not be able to let's say, preserve self or keep self if you don't have enough to
vitamins
sustain it.
And minerals and I could
waters
see
and everything, yeah.
And I can see Mrs. Roberts, where what is going to happen there is that you're going to get sick.
Yes.
And as a result of getting sick, then you will become stressed. An individual will become stressed. And so we don't want to get sick. We don't want to be stressed as a result of becoming sick.
At all.
All right. So let's hear Mr. Abraham's response.
Yes. So I'm going to deal with question 5. Do you exercise regularly? And there we would have had 56.3%. That's 36 of the respondents stated no. And I find that quite alarming. And I want to add correction to something that you would have just mentioned in terms of stresses in the environment, because there are a lot of schools of thought in terms of where stress comes from. But ideally, when you look at stress in itself, it's not in the environment, it's what's in the mind.
Yes.
How do the mind perceive the environment? Because you could have it both in your physical environment, social environment, and so forth. However, if it is that you want to put it specific to the environment, and there's, let's give for example, like a dog will attack my colleague, she may run and scream. But for someone like me, I might stand and fight.
Yeah, right.
You know, I've grown many dogs before. I've had encounter with pit bulls and all these things.
So you let them know that you are the boss.
The alpha.
All right,
alpha.
I like that
So
too.
for me, it's not, it would not be stressful. If I perceive that response, that stimulus as threatening, then it becomes stressful for me.
Yes.
And that's quite wonderful and on target, because when we talk about exercise, what does exercise do for the body?
Tell us.
It does a lot. It does a lot. Now, I'm pretty glad that the camera was not able to pick up the full image of me, because what the population would have seen is the result of the lack of exercise for several weeks, right? Now, what exercise does to the body, it helps relieve tension, all right? It helps excrete the waste from the body. It helps you take your mind away from the physical and everything else that is happening around you and help the body to work, you know. Exercise helps burn fat.
Yes.
Right? Excessive exercise. We ain't talking about just strolling and walking outside and so forth. You have to exert yourself to the point where there is sweat. Right? So when you do exercise, what it actually does, it takes away some of those harmful toxins that is built up in the body that helps to create tension. Right? The result of stress is tension. And when the tension builds, then it's very difficult for the individual to function, to cope with whatever is happening. So when you exert your body and you work up that sweat, it helps relieve this tension, right? So that tension does not remain in the body to cause you to feel angry, to cause you to feel anxious, or anything like that.
All right, so we're hearing straight from our panelists how important Newstart is in, managing stress. So Newstart is not only about physical health, but it's also about mental health. And I dare say it's all about holistic health, and I believe we are all familiar with it. So we want to hasten on as the time is going. We have another segment that is entitled Personal Care. That's what we've entitled it. And we have 4 questions in that area, right? Number 2, 4, 6, and 12. And by the way, as you look on your screen, you would have seen for number 5 that no was green. Yes? As in it had the correct, it had a tick as well, indicating that that was the correct response. The reason for that is that this survey, there is a better name for it. Help me here, Marlon, with the better name that we had used already.
The stress survey.
All right. Well, we're going to get back to it.
It's just slipped me.
Yes. you see the green there, and you probably would have gotten a tick, and you wondering why is it giving me a correct for saying that I do not exercise regularly. It is so that we can be able to attain the score, and it's done this way where the scores were contributed from the odd numbers. The odd numbers, if you answered yes to the odd number questions, then those answers will contribute to your stress level or to your stress score. Yes? For the, yes, if you answered no, yes, for not the odd numbers. And if you answered, sorry about that, if you answered yes for the even numbers, those scores, yes, that would take that score now to contribute towards your stress score. So that is how it's done. Even numbers, if you answered yes, then your stress level rise. If it is that you answered yes to the odd numbers.
If you answered no to the odd number,
right, your stress level will rise, and if you answered yes, then your stress level will go down. Okay, I hope that is clear. All right, so let's go into the personal care. Let's go into the personal care segment where we have 4 questions there, which is number 2, 4, 6, and 12. Number 2 is, do you use caffeinated beverages? Number 4, do you smoke? Number 6, do you use tranquilizers habitually? And number 12, do you forget things easily? Let's start with
all right. Well, I would actually do the do you use caffeinated beverages, where we had 9 respondents saying answering yes to that. So that's 14% of our responders. And then do you smoke? We had 2 persons who stated that yes, they smoke. But so these are, so in terms of caffeinated drinks, sometimes we say caffeinated drinks would give us a little boost, and that is something to get us going. A lot of persons drink coffee to give them that boost. Some people will do the Lucozade and those caffeinated stuff that sometimes we tend to consume. But these caffeinated drinks not only gives you an instant boost of energy because of the sugars and that kind of stuff, but it also can cause difficulty sleeping, right? Because what it does, it puts you on a high, and then when you come off of that high, then you get trouble to sleep. Sometimes people experience headaches. Your heart rate increases. So there's a lot of negative effects on the body when you do and consume these types of drinks. Some of us would experience dehydration, right? Because yeah, because of the caffeine, it allows you to urinate a lot or sweat a lot, right? It causes anxiety sometimes, and a lot of persons become dependent on it. So a lot of persons will tell you, I have to get a cup of coffee in the morning in order to function, else I can't function. Or I have to drink a Lucozade during the day because I need that energy to go, right? So there is some dependence with those things as well. In terms of smoking, now smoking increases your risk. A lot of people see it as sometimes, at least only 2 persons saw it in respondents. 2 respondents said that, you know, they probably smoke. We don't know how often they smoke, what they smoke, that kind of stuff. But with smoking increases your risk for so many different illnesses, right? And we need to also take those things into consideration.
Yes.
So it increases your risk for cancer. It increases your risk for heart diseases. It increases your risk for lung diseases. So is it that you want to smoke like that?
Let me
those
interject.
Increases?
Let me interject here. Some individuals would say that they are smoking because they are stressed, and this is how they reduce their stress. What would you say to that?
There are positive ways of coping with stress, and there are also negative ways of coping with stress. So most of the times we want persons to cope with stress using positive habits or kind of doing positive, give me a word.
Develop something that they could maintain that will be most beneficial for them.
But smoking, even though you may think it is helping you deal with stress, it causes physical illnesses, or it increases your risk for
stress.
And then that is going to, yes, it is a temporary fix.
It's temporary.
It is not a permanent fix or a long-term fix, but it can cause a long-term dependence or addiction.
And it may also be an indicator that the individual is not managing the
stress.
Yes,
Well.
the stressors in the environment well.
And even though, so let's say smoking or drinking alcohol may be their way of coping with the stress. After those things wear off, then what?
It's still there.
All right.
All right, the problem is still there.
So the problem is still there.
There's something that we use in therapy. In terms of coping, is either we are focused on the problem or the emotion. Sometimes we might not be able to fix the problem. However, we can deal with our emotions.
Yes.
Right? So sometimes if both can go hand in hand, but if you cannot change the problem, we deal with the emotion. So smoking doesn't help the emotion. That's not positive. Right? And it doesn't deal with the problem. All right?
All right, so that's important, brothers and sisters in Christ, friends, viewers, you know, in order to manage stress, then we must deal with both our emotions as well as our situations. Yes? And so we want to hasten on to the other question, and so I think this one will fall right in your garden to answer, so to, just to answer, Mr. Marlon. And we're talking about physical environment. We have 3 questions in that area. Number 7, 8, and 9. Do you live in a clean and organized house? Do you live in a noisy neighborhood? That's number 8. Number 9, does your home have a cozy atmosphere? I want to hear from a male's perspective. How will this contribute to...
Pastor making it sound like the males are nasty individuals. They're not really organized, and they leave their trousers and they leave their dirty wares in the sink and so on. We stress our wives out. I hope that's not what you are insinuating.
Not insinuating that, but generally men have gotten a bad rap in this regard.
Yes.
So
but
let's hear.
I do understand the importance, because in practical sense, let's look at the family environment. Mom have 4 or 5 children, right? Mom have a stressful job, single parent, and sometimes these children might be home by themselves, some of them of age, they are wrong relatives and so. And after coming home from a hard day of work, you know what it is to walk in the house and recognize, well, hey, I'm back at it. I have to clean up, I have to do so and so, right? It's the aesthetics of the environment helps reduce that level of stress, right? So no work, clean environment, the aesthetics, the perfect look, clean, smell everything. It boosts the way how you feel to relax you, right? And in terms when it's relaxing, practical sense again, your blood pressure. You walk in the house and you see the work, boom, your blood pressure going up because you start a quarrel.
Yes.
You walk inside and you see it clean and nice, you say wonderful.
Yes.
Like when you step into a hotel room.
Oh, yes.
So in practical sense, that is what we are speaking about. So we would have had 11 individuals stating that out of the 64 respondents that no, they do not live in a clean, organized house, and that is terrible.
That will be stressful
in
for
terms
them.
of a noisy neighborhood. This one hits it on the nail, because stress gives way to irritability, aggressiveness, right? Now, take for example, you like peace, right? So I think I'm going too far, because you can have noise in your immediate home as well. When you come home, noise. You understand? So that's all you're hearing. Noise.
Yep.
You want that peace and quiet, but the neighbor take the boombox and place it outside the door. Boom, 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 boom. So you don't have that environment where you could come back and relax, enjoy a peace and quiet. The environment that could cause you to sleep, cause you to feel humble and all this thing, you don't have that. You understand? So being in an environment that does not give you this adds to your stress level.
All right.
But Pastor, let me just interject here in terms of, because sometimes you can't control where you live.
Yeah.
You have no control over that.
Yes. Some don't have control.
Exactly. Some don't have control. You have to live where you have available.
Yes.
Right? It could be somewhere that has a lot of noise and that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I would encourage is, okay, find that quiet space. Wherever it is, it may not have to be in your home, but find that quiet space where you could calm yourself down and take control of your thoughts, take control of your being, rejuvenate yourself. Because home may be stressful. So find it, even if it's outside of the home, still find that quiet space that would work for you.
Yeah.
I must add here, I do not necessarily want to delay us on this particular point, but recently I was asked a question by a medical missionary at Scarborough Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that person asked, what are the other 2 laws of health? So we're familiar with the 8 laws of health, right, as identified in Newstart, and I was unable to answer, and so the individual was able to share with those of us who were there, doctor, as a matter of fact, who is a medical missionary, that cleanliness is the 9th law of health, yes, and a purity of thoughts, yes, is actually the 10th law of health. So we want to have a clean
Environment.
yes, outside
and
environment
and
a clean inner
Yes.
environment in order
yes.
to be healthy.
That's right.
That's
But
quite right.
I must add that I do love to live in a neighborhood where, you are hearing familiar songs quite often. right? It doesn't have to be a constant like a boombox, but in, you know, some neighborhoods are very quiet. You call those the residential neighborhoods. I would say to individuals, Pastor Frederick is stressed when he's living in a residential neighborhood.
Yes,
It is too quiet. I grew up in Roxborough, accustomed to noises all around us, and so when I'm hearing those noises, I'm relaxed, I'm in a good place, serotonin and dopamine is taking place in my brain. Yes. And so I like an environment with some level of noise, but not too much that when I'm trying to sleep at 10 o'clock in the night, because that's the best hour to go to sleep, I'm unable to go to sleep at that time.
And Pastor rightly said, because stress in itself, it's subjective to the individual. So some of the things that might bring enjoyment to one individual might cause pain and distress to the other individual.
Yes.
Right?
All right. So let's hasten on. We are enjoying ourselves on this panel discussion at this time. And so we will want to be mindful of the time nonetheless. Mindful of your time. So we're looking at our third category, or fourth category, which is social environment. And we have two main questions there. I'm going to leave you, the panelists, to deal with those two questions. Is it that we're going to deal with both of them, or are we going to deal with one of them? We're talking about good relationships, 17, number 17 and number 21. Yes.
Okay, so do you have a good relationship with your superior?
So that's number 17. Yes.
We actually had 5 persons responding no, which is just 7%. So I'm guessing that most of the respondents have a good relationship with superior.
Or could it be that they were afraid to say that they don't have?
Nobody was going to know who said anything and that kind of stuff. So I think they would have been a little open where that is concerned, and that is good in terms of relationship, because as human beings, we are social beings as well.
Yes.
And it is important to build positive relationships. There are some relationships that can be draining. And we call those persons drainers. What we also encourage persons to do is to surround themselves with persons who kind of boost you and gives you energy. Because I'm thinking, there are some persons, have you ever spoken to somebody and after you're done talking to that person, you're tired?
Exhausted.
They drain the energy from you. And that's not who you want to surround yourself with. You can't be giving of yourself all the time. You also have to have persons who are going to help you in the essence. But having relationship or positive relationship with your boss, I think that in itself would help you to appreciate work and work better. I think Marlon could probably say that, you know, his work relationship with his superiors.
Yes, quite wonderful.
quite wonderful.
That's important.
And it makes coming to work enjoyable.
Very.
You see that's what we're talking about. One of the things that I think a lot of bosses don't understand is if your workers enjoy coming to work, you will get more production out of them. But some of them just feel they need to be the boss, and that's it. I say so, and that's it. Right? It's not always productive for your work or for your organization. All right?
And I must add that this is very much important due to the fact that we spend so many hours.
That's right.
Yes, at work.
That's right.
It makes up a great part of our lives. And it should do so, because after all, work isn't something that has come as a result of sin. No, brothers and sisters in Christ, it was God himself who gave to man work, understanding the importance of it to man. And so the sinful environment, however, has made work stressful at times. And you don't want where work is demanding much, and then on the back of all those demands, the relationship between you and the
tense.
boss or the superior
Yeah.
and the employee isn't good.
Yes, it's
And so
tense.
it makes it,
Yeah.
very
And
stressful.
Pastor, we preach this all the time. You know, the first book of the Bible, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
It is not good for man to be alone. You understand? And it also, later down, he speaks about, brethren, do not forsake the gathering. You know?
Of yourselves
Of
together.
So,
yeah.
pay particular attention to those things. We are social beings.
That's
Yes.
right.
We were not created to be alone. So we have to find that mesh and that way how to get along with each and everyone else will be simply like Cain and Abel. It might be a bad analogy, but you know, we need to form that special bond
Yes.
or be able to deal with other individual personalities so that we can get along. We don't have to be the same. We'll never be the same.
Yes.
Right? We may have similar traits, but we'll never be the same. Right?
And so thank you very much for those responses, and we are so glad that the pandemic, is coming into endemic, and we are able to live with it, so that, yes, we've heard so much about social distancing, and it has affected our population.
Badly.
Yep.
Yes, so
Badly.
negatively. And so we are in the place now where we are able to interact more with each other. And so I want to believe that mental health is on the rise once more, even as stress levels are coming down. Well, let's look at our final large section. And it's the largest of the section, actually, self-awareness, where we have so many questions there. And so, in the interest of time, I'm going to allow both of you to identify if it's one or two, and give your response concerning such.
Marlon, I would encourage you to go first.
Now, self-awareness, one of the reasons why it takes up the larger portion of the survey, as we will have mentioned, a lot of the times we cannot deal with the problems. So then, how do we deal with the stress, and how do we cope? So we learn to deal with our emotion. So we must be self-aware.
Makes sense.
Right? For some of us, we are too rigid. Take, for example, number 28. Are you a perfectionist? You know? We had 26 in respondents stating yes. Now, what happens if you cannot get it right all the time? What do? You bawl, you scream, you pull out your hair, say,
you stress about it, you worry about it.
You worry about it whole night. You can't go to you can't go to bed. You can't rest. You can't do nothing else until you get it right. So some of us, we need to be aware of our characteristics or traits that could prevent us from having a less stressful life, right? So, do you have a sense of humor? I love that one. I love to laugh.
How many of us
important
laugh?
Yeah, I love to laugh.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, many muscles. When you laugh and relax your face, you relieve the stress. You laugh out loud. You know, I remember one of my past church brethren, God rest his soul, Mr. Earl Mills. I thought I could have laughed, but that guy could have laughed. Yeah, he could have laughed. Right? And these endorphins, when it releases these endorphins, it helps deactivate the stress response.
Yes.
Right? Because the stress response actually is what causes the body to react to what we perceive as being stressful.
Threat. Yeah, as a threat.
So when we turn off that stress response, then we are able to tone it down and create and achieve that level of homeostasis within
big word.
the body.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a big word for balance.
Yes,
Yes.
balance.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Balance. We balance it. Yes, we balance it. Right? So there's a lot in terms of self-awareness. You cannot make an effort to change something that is wrong or not going well with you if you are not aware of what you are experiencing, what you are bringing to the table, and what you are creating for yourself.
All right.
And I think one of the things that we could also say it is, well, we actually call that emotional intelligence. Being aware of your emotions. Kind of being able to identify, hey, one of the things that I tell people is that, hey, if you are upset or if you are vexed, I mean, let people know that you're vexed. Because you may not be vexed with the right person. You're vexed with somebody else. But you cannot say that you are vexed with this person, but this person may approach you and get the brunt of everything. So you know there's always this thing that they say, the straw that brought the camel back. You had nothing to do with this person, the way this person feels, but because you just said one word or uttered one word that was perceived to be wrong or perceived to be a threat, that person will now offload on you. But if you are aware of your emotions, and let's say you get to work, sometimes I would get to work and I'll say, not today, not today, right? So they know, okay, Lacey probably going through something or is in a state, or I'll ask for 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes to pull my thoughts together, pull myself together, and then I come out and deal with the public and my colleagues, right? So it is important. Emotional intelligence is very important for individuals. So you know yourself and you're able to identify when other persons want their space. Give people their space. Just as you would want your space, give persons their space. One of the questions that I like just now is, where is it? Are you satisfied with your sex life?
That's a hot one. All right.
Yes.
You go right ahead. You go ahead. We have married individuals looking on.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
So in terms of the response, we had 33 persons out of 64 saying that no, they are not satisfied with their sex life. So this is actually 52% of our responders saying that they are not satisfied with their sex life. And I think as Christians, I don't think we place enough emphasis on touch and intimacy, especially in marriage, right? I think we take our partners for granted. And sometimes you yourself may feel taken for granted. But sex is important, just as it's on, according to Maslow, it's
a basic need.
Basic need.
Necessary.
Yes, very necessary.
Yes.
Especially
Yes.
for some persons who have some heightened drives and stuff.
And
but it is important because, especially in your marriage, it allows you to communicate with your spouse in an intimate way. It allows you to be intimate. It allows you to
exercise.
It's a
Burn
form
off
of
that energy.
exercise.
Yeah.
So and that's one of the things.
Yes.
If you are not able to run around the house and run around the savannah or ride a bike, have sex.
But remember the Newstart principle, temperance.
Yes, you
Yes,
must
temperance.
be temperate. Do not overdo the thing. Right? Because there are other aspects
Be
to your
mindful of your partner.
Yes,
they
to
need
your
rest
life.
as well.
Yes, Marlon. Right? But sex is important. And again, it actually aids in enabling your relationship. It aids in building your marriage and cementing that aspect of that communication, because it's a form of communicating, and it allows you to speak without saying words. Right? Sometimes a lot of us talk plenty. Try not to speak as much, but listen. It's important to listen.
All right. So I think I would want to end right here. There is so much more. But I think I want to leave, in the minds of the viewers, this last point, as well as the other points, but especially this last point. And I want to add, because it's possible that someone is viewing who is not married. Yes. And because you're not married, you may think that on this Seventh-day Adventist program, that question is not being related to you. But I want to let you know that it is related to you. Perchance you may be even under 18, yes, and you're looking at the program. You should be satisfied with your sex life, yes. And that would mean that if it is that you are not yet married and you are not having sex, then you ought to be satisfied with that absence of a sex life. That's your sex life.
That's right.
No sex.
No sex.
So you're supposed to be satisfied with that. If you are married, yes, you ought to be satisfied with your sex life with your one partner, as again seeking to have other partners to fulfill your sexual desires. That is so important. So I want to leave us at this point. There is so much more that could be said, but I know that the time has gone. Maybe we might be able to look at it just for another time. Yes? But I want to leave as well to some ways to overcome stress. Just want to give you a few pointers in overcoming stress. One, you must have a thought plan. And your thought plan can include prohibiting negative thoughts. When they arise, say, what's the term? In Jesus' name. Yes? I rebuke you in Jesus' name. Yes. So it seems as though I'm a little stressed here, so some things are missing me. So then you must also look to choose things that are positive or neutral. Yes? Then you must have, thirdly, have constructive concerns as a motivation. And let me give you a little more about that. To solve the problems that provoke stress, it is necessary to think about alternatives, other possibilities, and ways to overcome a difficulty instead of immersing oneself in destructive, repetitive, and obsessive worry or behavior. Example, smoking, drinking caffeinated beverages, etc., etc. And finally, I would like to leave you with discarding irrational beliefs. So these are some of the things that you could do. Discard irrational beliefs so that you will reduce your stress and have a stress-free life. I want to thank the panelists, yes, for being with us and sharing so much with us. Sister Alicia Roberts Patterson, yes, and Brother Marlon Abraham. Thank you all for coming.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Okay, what a wonderful discussion we had this evening. Thank you very much, Pastor and the panelists. Of course, to bring our well-spent time to a close, I invite you now to adopt a posture of prayer, a posture of reverence, as we approach the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are ever so grateful unto you for your blessings, your mercies, and your grace. We are ever so grateful that with you, we have a first-class stress reliever, for indeed we can come to you with all our problems, all our burdens, and we want you not only hear, but you will provide solutions to our problems. Help us to find ourselves wrapped up and embodied in you, so that you can take all our stress away. Indeed, you've set to cast all your cares upon you, because you care for us. And so we claim that promise even now as we go into the week ahead. Help us to remember the 8 doctors of health. Help us to practice them so our lives can be richer, they can be fuller, and indeed we can experience optimum health while here on earth. We thank you for hearing and answering our prayer in your precious name. Amen.